If everyone finds this interesting, please give me a like, a comment, and don't forget to follow the channel to watch the latest episodes as soon as possible. I wish you all happy viewing moments. Today, we continue with the story Ultimate Son-in-Law, episode 324. Following the previous episode, Shen Lang cut his hair to save the household head, who was on the verge of losing his head. As soon as he was released, his face turned purple like an eggplant, and his eyes rolled back as if he was about to die. Fortunately, a unique version of Kpr, performed by Fierce Head, brought him back from the brink. Escaping death wasn't necessarily a good thing. 10 beggars then lived in fear, constantly on edge, as Fierce Head forced them into rigid discipline. He even played a game of riding the horse, tying them all tightly to the horse's back and parading them through the streets, their screams echoing like a traveling circus. The enraged Duke had to swallow his anger because Shen Lang's actions also brought shame to Ning Yuanxian. Finally, the day of the bloodline alteration injection, the fateful day, arrived. Immediately after the injection, their bodies rapidly transformed, cracking and bleeding profusely. After a while, their bodies stopped trembling, the bleeding ceased, and their breathing gradually stabilized. Shen Lang approached, observing meticulously, then turned to Fierce Head and said, "It seems to be temporarily safe, but the transformation process will still take a few more days. During this time, I entrust them to your care." Fierce Head decisively replied, "They are my subordinates, of course, I will look after them thoroughly." At the same time, in the study, Lan Fen was no longer teasing the servants but sat reading Buddhist scriptures, doing so elegantly, as if preparing to open an online meditation class. His usually mischievous face was now infuriatingly serious, his eyes complex, as if he had just achieved enlightenment while simultaneously plotting how to pick people's pockets. Shen Lang quietly entered and spoke, "Are you very worried about them?" Lan flinched slightly, quickly denying it, "No, not at all. I trust young Master Shen." Shen Lang, hearing this, thought to himself, "No, even I am not entirely sure, it's a high-risk, high-reward situation." The protagonist suddenly asked, "Can you tell me how you all met?" Lan thoughtfully replied, "Actually, they all grew up together on a mountain from a young age, living carefree lives. Lan Fen, along with his parents and everyone else in that mountain village, learned to read, practiced martial arts, and wove cloth. Their days were peaceful, like a paradise. Until a group of experts suddenly attacked, shattering that lie. Everyone panicked and fled, some lived, some died, and they scattered everywhere. We originally had over 30 people, but in the end, I only found these 10. The rest have vanished forever." Hearing this, Shen Lang secretly thought, a group of people with special bloodlines, living together, attacked by experts, this likely holds a secret. 2 days later, in the underground chamber, the intermittent, agonizing screams finally ceased. The 10 beggars all fell into a deep sleep. Wu Lai, accompanied by several female martial artists, entered, washing their bodies thoroughly, applying medicine, and giving them ginseng soup. What else could a man's body have at that point? The medicinal properties took effect and the whole group fell into a deep sleep, sleeping for 50 continuous hours, like mummies whose operating systems had just been reset. And then, finally, one by one, they woke up. Upon waking, they were stunned to find something strange about their bodies. Each breath felt like wind lifting their bodies, their entire being felt light, as if they wanted to fly. They were utterly bewildered. "So, it's over. I remember Shen Lang injected me, and then the pain was unbearable. Oh, why is my body different now? Full of strength." The whole group tried to move, with just a slight exertion of force, they shot straight up. He shocked, "Oh my gosh, I can fly. What the heck is happening?" And then he fell with a thud, looking at each other, trembling. Before, their bodies were deformed, twisted, and so weak that they gasped for breath after a few steps like oxen pulling a cart. Some could only lie down. Now, it was different. Their bodies were well proportioned, muscles solid, and their faces, once ugly and distorted, had become handsome. Some were even unbelievably good looking. They couldn't believe it was themselves. They just grinned with excitement, exclaiming, "My back is no longer hunched, my body is whole, my hand joints no longer hurt, me too, my whole body is flexible." Fierce Head smiled slyly, pointing to several large mirrors set up. "There are mirrors in front of you. Look at yourselves and see your update." The whole group looked up and instantly froze. The image of their sick, weak, deformed selves that had haunted them for over a decade completely vanished, replaced by strong young men, standing tall and proud like spears. At first, they tried to hold back, but then tears streamed down their faces. 1 drop, 2 drops, then they cried like children. For over a decade, since they could remember, their bodies had never been normal. Now, suddenly, they were reborn, their emotions overflowing. The crying echoed, but it was no longer sorrow, it was the cry of those who had climbed from hell to heaven. From being deformed and crippled, once believing their lives would only consist of lying down, waiting to rot, the beggars were now truly reborn. Before, lying flat on the ground was their only pleasure, as it was the only way to avoid facing their humiliating reality. But now, it was different. Their entire bodies were filled with strength, a light sensation as if they were about to fly into the sky. Fierce Head stood tall, his eyes cold, saying, "That's right. From this moment on, you are no longer crippled beggars, no longer wanderers, but 100 household soldiers under the 5th prince. Engrave this moment, engrave the one who gave you a new life. Anyone who dares to betray shall be cursed by heaven and earth. Anyone who dares to be lazy shall be cursed by heaven and earth. Anyone who dares to be greedy and deceitful shall be cursed by heaven and earth." Just then, Shen Lang and Ning Zhen entered. Fierce Head loudly proclaimed, "Now your bodies are completely recovered. Before, your crippled bodies couldn't even kneel. Now that you are healthy, why don't you quickly kneel before your lord?" Saying this, he immediately knelt on one knee, followed by the 10 beggars behind him. They joined their hands respectfully and shouted, "Greetings, your highness, greetings, young master Shen." Shen Lang crossed his arms, his eyes sweeping over each of them, and slowly spoke, as if pouring poison into their hearts. "Before, you were just nameless trash, but from today on, you are the 100 household soldiers of His Highness Ning Zhang." He continued, "In the future, you may become 1,000 household heads, guerrilla generals, participating generals, or even admirals. You need new names. Lan Fen is the eldest brother, so from now on you will be called after him, Lan Ye, Lan Er, Lan San, up to Lan Shai." Ning Zhen nearly burst out laughing upon hearing this. He turned to Shen Lang and whispered, "Naming them like this, isn't it like raising a bunch of cats and dogs?" Shen Lang replied, "It's fine. This way of naming will always remind you that you are brothers who live and die together, and will never betray each other." Then, Shen Lang's tone changed, becoming stern as he enunciated each word. "No more talk. There are 29 days left until the martial arts examination begins. If you pass, you will soar to the heavens, His Highness will have power, and I will have pride. If you fail, you all die. Not just you, but even I will return to Xuanwu City in disgrace. I hope that scenario will not happen. From today onwards, if one succeeds, all succeed. If one falls, all are buried. We live and die together, sharing both glory and shame." Immediately, they all repeated in unison, "Live and die together, share glory and shame." Shen Lang nodded in satisfaction and continued, "General Zhuo, the rest is up to you." Fierce Head responded clearly, "Understood." He immediately stood up and said loudly, "Everyone, put on your clothes and go eat. Training begins in half an hour." The martial arts examination has 4 categories: weightlifting, archery, horseback archery, and mounted combat. Ordinary people need to train for 10 years to dare to participate, but we only have 28 days left. "Brothers, let's go." Their morale surged, and the 10 beggars responded with fervent determination, "Understood." And so, the training hell began. 12 hours a day, 9 hours of training, the remaining 3 hours for eating, sleeping, and defecating. This wasn't martial arts training. This was forcing people to become monsters. Shen Lang watched, feeling a chill run down his spine, not because they were weak, but because they were too strong. This power made Shen Lang, who thought he was quite formidable, suddenly feel like a speck of dust. The world of martial arts was truly ruthless. Those with innate bloodline talent automatically hacked the game and could do anything they wanted. The first test was weightlifting. Ordinary people had to bend their backs and itch their bones to lift weights. But these guys, after activating their ancient golden worm bloodline, carried weights as if they were carrying a rice cooker. In less than 15 minutes, they surpassed the examination standard, passing with ease. Next was archery. Shen Lang originally thought archery relied on technique, mental focus, and composure. To his surprise, for these incredibly talented individuals, it was all child's play. Fierce Head handed them a bow weighing 1.5 shi equivalent to 200 catties in modern times, and they drew it taut as easily as pulling a clothesline. Ordinary people would be exhausted after firing 100 arrows a day, but these guys fired 500 arrows in half a day, replacing bows when they broke. No matter how much strength they exerted, they only needed to soak in medicinal baths at night to fully recover by morning. Their bodies and meridians seemed to contain infinite power. Day after day, they practiced archery in the morning and rode horses in the afternoon. Horse riding was similar. Ordinary people took a year to get used to the posture. These guys were riding as one with their horses in 3 days. By the 4th day, they didn't even need their hands, controlling the horse by clamping their legs, while simultaneously riding and shooting arrows with pinpoint accuracy. Horses galloped, arrows flew, and wild laughter echoed through the sky. After only a few days, their techniques had reached a monstrous level. They were also taught internal martial arts techniques, improving as if they were eating super-powered snacks. The female martial artists under Wu Lai watched with dropped jaws, while Shen Shizhen sat dumbfounded, questioning his life for the 9th time. He thought to himself, do I even need to practice martial arts anymore? This world is too unfair. Ning Zhen was equally astonished, his mouth agape at the scene before him. Could there be so many geniuses? Such progress is truly terrifying. What talent and virtue do I possess to have 10 geniuses loyal to me? What talent and virtue do I possess to have Shen Lang's assistance? Zhen Shizhen angrily shouted, this world is too unfair. Ordinary people ride turtles, these talented ones ride horses, and that big idiot even rides an eagle, flying around. Damn it, is there any fairness left in this world? Wu Lai, standing nearby, replied indifferently, why do you always compare yourself to geniuses? Can't you compare yourself to others? Shizhen blinked. Compare to whom? Compare to your young master. Even your young master Shen Lang is an ultimate genius, Wu Lai calmly stated. Shen Shizhen was stunned, thinking to himself, my master is the most useless person in this martial arts world. If there was a ranking of the least talented, Shen Lang would definitely be the overlord, the weakest in the world. Even across the entire martial arts world, it would be hard to find someone weaker than him. What's the point of martial arts if you can win against my master? There's nothing glorious about that. Wu Lai continued, your young master's talent must have been poured entirely into his intelligence and appearance. He then asked, Shizhen, have you ever seen anyone as handsome as the young master? Shizhen mumbled, what about the young master of Yuemanis? He must be equally handsome, right? Wu Lai widened her eyes, no. Yuemanis is too beautiful, but still not as good as the young master. Shizhen secretly muttered, actually, my master is not inferior, he's handsome in a different way, the kind of handsome that signifies low libido. But he only dared to think this. If he spoke it aloud, he'd probably be killed. Thinking about it, Shen Shizhen said, what about Zhu Hongxue? Wu Lai replied, Zhu Hongxue is indeed an ultimate handsome man, a top-tier handsome man, and more than just his appearance, it's his charisma. Just then, Shizhen turned and teased, Hanno, you seem to have lost weight recently. Hearing this, Hanno's face turned as red as a gourd, and he shrieked, no, don't talk nonsense. Then he covered his face and ran off as if chased by a ghost. Shizhen was bewildered. Oh, if he's thin, why won't he admit it? He's clearly lost at least a few pounds. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, there were only 2 days left until the literary exam and 5 days until the martial arts exam. Over the past 13 days, Lan Fen had prepared a treasure trove of classical books, poetry, and literature for Shen Lang. Every day, Shen Lang diligently read and wrote endlessly in essays and 20 poems. His output was so prolific it rivaled old scholars who wrote their entire lives. The problem was, he was constantly plagiarizing existing works. Poetry, allusions, and famous sayings from 2,000 years of Chinese civilization. Lan Fen would gather them, rehash them, and insert them into the essays like sprinkling fried shallots. Anyone unfamiliar would think he was a literary prodigy, the greatest writer under heaven. Shen Lang held the essays and could only remain silent. One reason was because they were so exceptionally well written, the other was that he wasn't skilled enough to critic them. Ningzhen read them, stunned, and evaluated. Reading 10 essays straight through feels a bit numb, but if you read just one, it's truly incomparably brilliant. Shen Lang asked, can I get into the top 3? Ningzhen replied, I've read all the top 3 strategies from the imperial examinations in the capital, but in terms of astonishing brilliance, they are far inferior to Lan Fen's. The words he uses are truly beautiful, the allusions are skillfully and perfectly placed. Every sentence of Lan Fen's is extracted from thousands of immortal masterpieces, and he knows how to apply them flexibly and gracefully. Therefore, to get into the top 3 of this special examination, I wouldn't dare say 9 out of 10 chances, but 7 or 8 out of 10 is definitely possible. If